We strike out into the unknown, looking for answers to questions we haven't even asked, and we are anticipating answers we don't even want. We do this to find out what lies beyond. Know that we do it for progress. Mandrake, Full Ship Young departure, 2SD. Mr. Slayer and SLA Industries had ended the conflict era and emerged the victors. History would claim that the conflict aliens were extinct, but the truth was that many survivors had escaped beyond the Herodotus system, home to a blank world on which SLA Industries' biggest secret was kept. On this world was a man who had a stake in the entire universe, but was to be denied that stake, even in death. This individual was a young man, and within this new world of progress, he could not be destroyed, for he had already died once. However, he could be forgotten. Before Mr. Slayer founded SLA Industries, a pact had been made, one which would imprison this individual, subdue his potential, and ensure he would not interfere with the affairs of SLA Industries or the plans for the world of progress. He was imprisoned on a desolate wasteland of a planet in the farthest corner of the known universe, a planet bereft of even a name. He would inhabit this desert alone, well, except for the things he feared the most. 1 year after the end of the conflict era, Mr. Slayer felt the storm that raged over that distant world. While the corporate fat cats and departmental heads celebrated, patting themselves on the backs and drinking expensive champagnes, Mr. Slayer couldn't help but feel the fury building in that far corner of his empire. He smelled burning sand and matted fur, and then he felt it, a searching presence, as though a blind man would look for a lost object. This was the first time Mr. Slayer felt the same pain as his chest, and while it would fade, it would never go away completely. Throughout the conflict era, SLA Industries had been a mere weapons manufacturer and arms vendor, but once the big picture had concluded, a new picture started forming. A business plan that would cover all needs. SLA Industries would take over the governments of planets and star systems, aggressively buying out and rebranding every conceivable object in the world of progress in a century-long campaign. This would be the foundation of what SLA Industries would be over the next 9 centuries, and history has come to know this period as the Formation Era. Every aspect of the known universe would be swept aside and rebranded as the world of progress. And this aggressive expansion of corporate interests is believed to be even bloodier than the conflict era. The known universe had not been prepared for this. SLA Industries were met with some resistance, though, in place of the brutality of the conflict species, was the common person fighting for their identity and freedom. They stood little chance against the industrial war machine of SLA Industries, and within a generation of the Formation era's close, all records of resistance were forgotten. As the company entered its greatest years, there was no doubt that it was an all-consuming entity. SLA Industries owned and controlled all aspects of life, and that was accepted as the new normal. At the outset of the formation, the planet Jeth was the centre of this new world of progress. During the conflict era, SLA Industries had set up bases across the planet, but now SLA Industries would focus their efforts on the construction of their capital on the planet, and they wouldn't let something as small as the indigenous species get in the way of this. Progress, as SLA Industries calls it, was an inevitability in the rapid climate change caused by strings of natural disasters. Soon, the planet Jeth had become so synonymous with the city that was home to SLA Industries' corporate headquarters that it was simply known as Mort. Jeth's true name, like so many other things in the world of progress, had been rebranded and forgotten to time. SLA Industries had not wasted time in stripping the planet Jeth of its resources. Oil reserves were emptied, mineral beds plundered, and the vast forests and jungles cut down for lumber. Innumerable factories were built in the Garto tundra, arguably the first Jethian territory to fall before the corporate machine. These factories would belch black smoke and toxic gases into the air, scarring the upper atmosphere with pollutants. As the centuries passed, the Garto tundra would become a polluted wasteland, its original name forgotten, known now only as the no-go zone. SLA Industries would complete their plunder of Jeth's natural resources in 6 years. All natural flora was extinct, and the fauna fared little better. Only the most adaptive species remained, and were considered nothing more than vermin. In the second year of the formation era, a promising Ebonite student by the name of Mandrake assembled a crew and took the full ship Young on an expedition into conflict space. The aim of this expedition was to check on the conflict species and report back in 5 years' time. However, once the ship reached the gates of Herodotus, the entry to conflict space, it was never heard from again, and the ship is believed to have been either lost or destroyed. That is, until 900 years later, when the ship would re-emerge from conflict space carrying the descendants of Mandrake's crew and their mummic masters. SLA Industries, of course, were not unaware of the terrible things they had done to achieve victory, and perhaps could foresee the terrors to come. The company had already begun to restrict information of their current operations, while also erasing records of their past misdeeds. They could not, however, completely erase the conflict species from history, nor the new power that was growing on the barren planet at the far edge of the world of progress, the world now known as White Earth. The danger of White Earth was, at that time, insignificant, and the remains of the conflict species had fled beyond the gates of Herodotus, but ignoring these dangers would have been unwise. 2 plans were enacted. First, the aethernauts of the Naga Society would venture into conflict space to observe, record, and report back. Second, a defensive strategy was set up as a contingency for the conflict aliens' return. And in 5 SD, the first draft of the Whistling Bridge protocols was drawn up, with these protocols being revised and updated every 50 years, based on the current state of the world of progress. It was an exciting time for the company, and an endless stream of workers descended on Mort from all corners of the world of progress to find employment in this expanding corporate empire. With this influx of workers came the inevitable influx of problems. Crime rates soared, and SLA Industries were struggling to deal with this lawlessness. Enter Jonathan Bellwood, one of the company's more resourceful operatives. With the permission of head office, Bellwood chose a team and a location, and used this task force to bring law and order to this chosen region. The trial was successful, and Bellwood's Shivers would be expanded and become the police force of Mort City. From their formation in 58 SD, The shivers had become one of the most common sights in Mort City, made up of generations of recruits for the purpose of patrolling the streets. The Shiver organisation is split between those who believe in SLA Industries and those corrupted by hyper-capitalism. SLA Industries faced another problem. If Mort was to become the capital of their empire, it was going to need power. A lot of power. And so, the decision was made to build a vast series of nuclear power plants. The lush jungles of Jeth were devoured by the industrial machine to make way for these reactors. And it was around this time that the company encountered the Jethians, who were unhappy that SLA Industries had invaded their world, burned their forests, and razed their temples. The Jethians, however, were not a warlike species and could offer little in the way of resistance. Choosing prayer over battle, the Jethians took a pacifist stand, and worse, refused to join with SLA Industries. Instead, they fled to their city on the equator and prayed to their gods, unaware that their deities had already fled into conflict space. In ATSD, the Fission Belt, a chain of nuclear reactors built along the planet's equator, went online. Built in a strategic position, far enough away from Mort to avoid any radiation, but close enough to power the city and the other city-states emerging on the planet. 7 years later, after the completion of the last reactor, there was a catastrophic meltdown. Radioactive winds engulfed the planet, and SLA hoped the fallout would end the Jethians once and for all. The Jethians, however, now ravaged by lethal doses of radiation, yet somehow still alive, abandoned their ancestral homes and began to migrate north. Along the way they became distorted and mutated, a broken, animalistic species, driven only by the base instincts of survival and hunger. In 88SD, the first reports of carrion, as the people of Mort City named them, unaware of their origins as the Jethians, filtered up to head office. It was believed by head office that this was nothing more than a small band of mutants. However, the carrion have plagued the sewers of Mort City and the ruins of the cannibal sectors for over 800 years. Thank you for listening to this video covering the lore of Nightfall Games' SLA Industries tabletop role-playing game. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like, share it among your friends, and subscribe by ringing that bell. If there are any other aspects of this setting you would like me to cover, please let me know, and I'll be sure to, at some point, make a video about it.